Hi, I'm Rhode. I'm the director of the Rhode Island Organizing Project.
Hi, I'm Marjorie. I'm a community organizer, and I've been with RIHOP, Rhode Island Organizing Project, for the past 7 years.
Department of Transportation has a plan to build a multi-hub bus system in Providence. They want to get rid of Kennedy Plaza. 75% of the bus stops will be gone. The 25 that remain will technically be on either side of Kennedy Plaza. Then they want to build a new bus hub at the end of Doran Street, and then they want to have 25% of the bus stops at Kennedy at the train station. So that's the plan by the Department of Transportation. RIHOP and a coalition of groups that are part of the Resiliency Coalition oppose the multi-hub bus system. We don't think it'll improve transportation for any riders, current or future.
I really think there's always been a push to develop Kennedy Plaza into, a mini Central Park. I don't know how else to explain it. With shops and restaurants and things like that, which of course currently they can't do because it's where the bus stops are. So I really think that economic development is behind it. I think it's a misguided plan, but I do believe that's because other than that, there's nothing that I have heard or read that makes any sense on why they would tear apart Kennedy Plaza and put bus stops at such disparate places, which will only make it harder for people using the RIPTA transportation system.
They argue it'll improve transportation, that'll make it easier for people to get to like what they now call the Innovation District around Rhode Island Hospital and all in between. People can already get there. They just developed something called the Downtown Transit Corridor that allows you to get from the train station to Kennedy Plaza to Rhode Island Hospital in 5 minutes. So I'm not sure why they would need to do a multi-hub bus system to achieve that goal. They also say that it's not safe for pedestrians down there. Our argument would be that they just need to improve the crossing signals, make them longer, have elevated crosswalks so it's safer for people to go. They also say it'll be better for traffic, which is somewhat laughable because good luck trying to get out of the end of Doran Street or around the train station. It's really a silly plan. It really has almost zero transit merits. So I think, as Marjorie said, it's really an effort to appease downtown property interest.
And the reason that we became involved in this in the first place is talking to members of the community, people that we organize, and first of all telling them what the plan was, and then how do they think it would affect them. And for seniors, it's going to be confusing. These people who ride with, they know what bus goes where, when, what time, what street you have to cross over to get. They have it down pat. And this will cause general confusion. And also what hasn't been clarified is how they're going to get people from one spot to another. And, we constantly raise that question and, we haven't got a satisfactory answer. So what that means is that even people who use it to go to work, longer commuter times, students, longer commuter times, people with disabilities, how are they supposed to get from A to B to C? So really, there are so many unanswered questions. And also, there was virtually no public input before they unveiled this grand plan, which was really troubling.
I just spent the last 3 weeks talking to people at Kennedy Plaza, and I didn't meet one bus rider that was in favor of the proposal. And then Marjorie and I have been talking to people in the general community for 9 months, and we've yet to meet a bus rider that thinks it's a good idea. So that should tell you something.
Yeah. So it begs the question: who is it a good idea for? And it's certainly not the people that use RIPTA. So, that's why I go back to the economic development seems to be what's behind this. Although we pushed hard enough and there's been enough attention brought that I think that they are going to have public hearings, but I think it's pro forma. I don't think they're of any substance, and it will change the hearts and minds of the people who have decided that this is the way we're going to do public transportation.
And we support RIPTA. We think RIPTA is an important agency. But we think there just needs to be a better investment so that they have buses that operate more frequently. Like I take the R line to meetings. It's fabulous. Every 10 minutes. They need more bus lines like that. They need more bus lines that connect so that your transfers are faster. And then Marjorie in particular, but we both work with people that live kind of outside the city, and a lot of them have access issues. So rather than wasting our time on a multi-hub bus system that we don't need, we need a plan that's going to like help people get to Cranston and Warwick and Woonsocket and all those places faster.
Yeah, the RIPTA has always been Providence centric, and that, I grew up in Rhode Island. So it was that old, it was the hub and they were the spokes. But, assuming everybody wanted to come to downtown Providence, well, we all know how much that has changed. But yet that mentality seems to still prevail. And so areas, I live in Woonsocket, and, we certainly could do with more buses, more frequent buses to more places. So while they're developing all this, the outlying areas are still suffering from lack of service, or, so that, it's hard to understand what the grand scheme is, because like I said, it seems like a very old-fashioned approach, because Providence is no longer the hub.
When we were talking to people in Kennedy Plaza, folks with mobility issues were particularly worried. Like as Marjorie said, it's really not clear how they're going to get between those three hubs. They say that they're going to have this downtown transit corridor that's going to get you there every 5 minutes. But if you're in a motorized wheelchair, every time you have to make a transfer, it's not an easy thing to do. So people are fairly concerned about that.
And it's also shelter. What kind of stops are they going to be? Because people, like I said, who RIPTA is their transportation, are out there in all kinds of weather, in all kinds of conditions, and so they haven't really clarified what they envision for shelters. Are they going to have public bathrooms and things like that that are really important to people who use RIPTA?
I think it would be relatively easy to fix Kennedy Plaza. I just think better security, better bathrooms, more buses that come more frequently, better crosswalks, longer traffic signals. If they did all those things, it would help improve Kennedy Plaza and make it a better place for all. The mayor actually had a proposal that he came out with in 2018, which is actually pretty good. It does a lot of the things that we've been talking about. So I don't know why he came out with a brand new one, which we don't like. It gets a little confusing because he has his plan to develop the whole Kennedy Plaza area, and then the Department of Transportation has theirs. But in both of those plans, they don't see buses as the center of Kennedy Plaza any longer.
So the continuing effort, I think, is to educate people, because, I spent time at one of the bus depots in my area that people frequent, and so many people didn't even know what the plan was. So that's kind of the biggest hurdle, to get the message out there. These changes will affect everyone. So it's not just the seniors, it's not just the disabled, it's anybody and everybody who ever uses public transportation. And the fact that so many people were unaware that this was going on, I think speaks to how poorly this has been publicized.
We worked, RIPTA had a proposal 5 years ago maybe to get rid of the no-fare bus pass. Hundreds of people came to meetings. They said, please don't get rid of the bus pass. It's gonna make it harder for me to get to the grocery store. It's gonna harder for me to go to church. It's gonna make it harder for me to volunteer. They did it anyway. They didn't listen. And I see parallels here. People are saying, look, this plan is not gonna work. It's not gonna work. In the no-fare case, it got so bad that they couldn't afford the 50 cents that they started charging people. We have a food pantry here, and participation here plummeted. And it wasn't the only food pantry. People were telling them that, and they weren't listening. Same thing here. People are saying, this is not a good plan. It doesn't work for us. But government officials are not listening. So they're going to end up with a bad plan.
And unlike the no-fare bus plan, which they simply reestablished, if you tear up Kennedy Plaza, and it's not easily undone. So the real fear is, and there aren't many alternatives. to public transportation for most folks. They can't afford the Ubers and the Lyfts. You know, taxi cab companies are now almost non-existent. So really, you know, if you depend on public transportation, that is it. You know, I mean, there is no other way for them people to get around. So that's really concerning. And I think the focus on, you know, the hospitals, you know, while it's not a bad thing, that is not the end-all be-all destination for most folks. You know, they're seeing family and friends, they're taking kids to and from school, they're doing the shopping. You know, all of that has nothing to do with Rhode Island Hospital. And I think once again, you know, it's kind of catering to the big guy in the room and forgetting about all the little guys. And I think that, you know, we constantly need to raise that up. Who's your market? What's your demographic? That's what you should be catering to, not to some potential clients in some future, you know, scenario. So I think, you know, I think that's where short-sightedness has come in, and also because they really don't understand the people who use public transportation. They just don't.
We have a rapidly aging population that is going to need the bus. So that's that's a potential market. Again, rather than waste their time in the multi-hub, look there. All the seniors that live in Cranston and Warwick and Kingston and Westerly, how can we make Ripta better for these folks?
And some of those folks are really fighting hard to get a bus stop. Right in North Smithfield, not too far from me, there's a very dangerous road that people have to walk up to get to the nearest bus stop. It has no sidewalks, you know, people move fast on that road. There's plenty of room for the bus to come in and turn around and go out. Yet, you know, those ideas fall on deaf ears. Once again, who do you think your demographic is? You know, and why aren't you serving them to the best of your ability instead of these big plans that don't seem to serve anyone, you know, who ride Ripta?
People also tell us they would like to see better weekend service, better evening service. That would be another big area. And I've spoken to workers at Kennedy Plaza, and they're not happy. Folks who use the bus to get to work, you know, low-wage workers who really depend upon the bus. So I'm shocked how far some of them come to work, and they're not happy at all, you know, with the plan. So I don't think it's good for workers either, even though it's touted as that. As Marjorie said, you can already get to Rhode Island Hospital relatively easily and all those stops in between. Just Google downtown transit corridor. They just had a big press conference about that 2-3 weeks ago. It's a good thing, we support it, but all the arguments about why the downtown transit corridor are the same arguments they're making about why we need the multi-hub.
I mean, in an era where some cities are considering free public transportation, I just think that we're so far behind the 8 ball as far as, you know, here's a plan that on its face looks like it's making it more difficult for people to use public transportation. So, you know, it's hard to understand what the thinking is, and unfortunately they're not sharing, so we don't know. I would like to see them truly engage the public, not just in this issue, but over and over again. It's done 2 people instead of 4 people. So let's turn this around. Let's do it for people. In order to do that, you have to listen, and you have to take to heart what you're hearing. But until, you know, that happens, I really don't think that any good can come out of this plan. I understand that they have money and they want to use it, but it's supposed to be used to improve transportation, and this plan is not that.
I just pretty much repeat what I had said earlier. I think, you know, better amenities in Kennedy Plaza, clean, functioning bathroom. Right now they have no staff there. You can get a ticket or anything. I think that would help. Again, improving those crosswalks. They're somewhat dangerous to cross. Longer crosswalks. Buses that go quicker. I think those would be the main areas. And then, you know, building hubs in areas that, you know, that it needs it. I mean, if you live in Cumberland, where the governor is from, and you try to get to Woonsocket, You've got to come all the way into Providence, you have to go all the way out. I've had meetings in Warwick where I invite someone that lives 2 miles away, they got to come all the way into Providence, back out to Warwick to go to a meeting that's 2 miles from her house. That's kind of ludicrous. Those are the kind of things, and Ripton knows that. They have a plan called the 2040 plan that speaks to a lot of this. So I think that the multi-hub system is just a diversion from the 2040 plan, which is actually, not bad. A lot of the things that Marjorie and I have been talking about, is in that 2040 plan. The multi-hub came after that mysteriously. I just want to echo what Marjorie said. The folks that ride the bus know it better than anyone. And the decision makers, if they would just listen to them, they would have a better bus system. We have one gentleman that we worked with. He knows every bus route in the entire state. He can tell you where it is, where it'll take you. They use it every day. I didn't use the bus for a while, and then people started telling me stuff, and I couldn't quite follow them. So I said, I need to start taking the bus. Once I started taking the bus, a lot of the things that they were saying made sense. And unless you take the bus, it's hard to understand.
I encourage and invite all those who are advocates of this plan to ride the bus for a month.
Shadow someone who's in a wheelchair, or an elderly person with mobility issues that has a walking cane, or someone who's sight impaired, or someone with anxiety. Shadow them for a day or so, and you'll see that this plan makes no sense.